I'm 83 years old. For more than 40 years, I was a judge. People called me Your Honor. They stood when I entered the room. They believed that when I spoke, justice spoke. And for most of my life, I believed it too. But I am telling you something now that I have never said out loud. Not to my wife, not to my children, not to the priest who visited me last week. I once sentenced a man I knew was innocent. I knew it, not suspected, not wondered. I knew it the way you know your own name. And I sent him to prison anyway. I am telling you this because I do not have much time left. The doctors are kind, but their eyes say more than their words. When you reach my age, you stop fearing death. What you start to fear is dying with something unspoken still sitting on your chest like a stone. So listen to me, because what I am about to tell you is not really about him. It is about you. His name was Daniel. He was 31 years old. He had a wife and a small daughter who used to wait outside the courthouse, holding a drawing she had made for him. I remember that drawing. A yellow sun, a house, 3 stick figures holding hands. She believed her father was coming home. I sat above them all in my black robe, and I looked down, and I told myself the same thing I had told myself 1,000 times before. The evidence is the evidence. My job is the law, not the truth. I thought I had time. Time to fix it later. Time to find a way. Time to be the good man I always believed I was, just not today. But later never came. You see, I had spent my whole career being respected, being right, being the man who never bent. And on that day, bending would have cost me. There were powerful people watching that case. A wrong ruling, the right ruling, would have ended things for me. My reputation, my pension, my name on that building. So I chose myself, and I told myself it was the law. I want you to understand something because I did not understand it until it was far, far too late. The most dangerous lies you will ever tell are not the lies you tell other people. They are the lies you tell yourself to feel like a good person while you do a terrible thing. I was wrong. God, I was so wrong. That drawing, the yellow sun, the little house, I see it every single night when I close my eyes. 40 years of nights. A man can build a great life on top of one buried mistake, but he cannot stop it from breathing underneath the floorboards. And here is the part I need you to hear. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing while you listen to an old man's voice, you think you are different. You think your small compromises are nothing. You think there will always be time to set things right. That is exactly what I thought. I am going to tell you everything. What happened to Daniel? What I discovered 11 years later, and the one thing I would give my entire life to undo, if I only could. But first you have to understand who I was before any of this happened, because I was not always a coward in a black robe. I was once a boy who believed in justice more than anything in the world. I grew up in a small town where the law meant nothing. My father owed money to a man everyone was afraid of. One night, that man came to our house with 2 others. I was 9 years old. I watched from the top of the stairs as they broke my father's hand on our own kitchen table, slowly, while he begged them to stop in front of his wife and his son. We went to the police the next morning. I remember the officer. I remember how he looked at the floor instead of at us. He said there was nothing he could do. No proof. No witnesses willing to talk. The powerful man walked free, and my father never used that hand the same way again. That was the day I decided what I would become. I told myself that someday I would be the man who could not be bought, the man who looked the powerful in the eye and did not look away. I would be the justice that never came for my father. You have to understand this about me because it explains everything that came later. I did not become a judge for the money or the title. I became a judge because of a 9-year-old boy on a staircase who swore he would never let the strong crush the weak again. And for a long time I kept that promise. I worked harder than anyone. I studied while other young men slept. I took the cases nobody wanted. I ruled against rich men and watched them turn red with anger, and I felt something close to joy because every time I was that boy again, finally winning the fight my father lost. People began to notice me. They said I was incorruptible. They said I had a spine of iron. My wife was proud. My children bragged about their father, the judge. The newspapers used my name as a symbol of everything a good court should be. And here is the trap. Here is the thing I wish someone had warned me about when I was young and certain and proud. When the whole world tells you that you are a good man, you stop checking whether it is still true. Slowly, without noticing, my reason for being honest changed. In the beginning, I was honest because I loved justice. But after 30 years of applause, I was honest because I loved being the man people called honest. Do you hear the difference? It is small. It is almost nothing. It is everything. My honesty had become about me, about my name, my legacy, the building they were going to name after me. And a man whose goodness has quietly become about himself is a man who can be bought. He just does not know the price yet. There were cracks. There were always cracks. I worked so much that my son grew up while I was in another room. The night he graduated, I was reading a case file. I told myself there would be time later to be a father. There was that phrase again, living in my mouth. Later. I thought I had time. I missed his graduation. I missed my daughter's wedding dance. I told myself it was the price of serving something bigger than myself. But I see it now for what it was. I was not serving justice anymore. I was serving the statue I had built of myself. And a man will protect a statue with everything he has, even when protecting it means destroying someone real. I did not know it yet, but I had spent 40 years getting ready to fail the most important test of my life. And Daniel was about to walk into my courtroom. The case seemed simple. That was the first lie. A wealthy businessman had been found dead in his home. The city wanted an answer fast. The powerful wanted it faster. And Daniel, a quiet man who had once worked for the dead man and been fired by him, was the easiest answer anyone could ask for. The evidence against him was thin. I knew it the moment I read the file. A motive, yes, but the rest was smoke. A witness who kept changing the story. A timeline that did not hold. Fingerprints in a house where he had once worked, which meant nothing at all. I had thrown out cases on far stronger evidence than this, but this time was different. The dead man had powerful friends. Those friends had quiet conversations, and in those quiet conversations my name came up, not as the judge on the case, but as a man who had been promised many things. A higher court, a legacy, the crown at the end of a long career. All I had to do was let the easy answer win. I remember the moment I decided. People imagine these moments are dramatic. They are not. I was sitting alone in my chambers, drinking cold coffee, and I simply thought, I have given my whole life to this. I have earned this. One case, one quiet case, and everything I built is safe. I told myself the jury would decide, not me. I told myself maybe he really did it. I told myself I would find a way to fix it later if I was wrong. I thought I had time. So I let it happen. I made the small rulings that closed doors. I allowed the weak witness. I blocked the question that might have set him free. I did not bang a gavel and scream guilty. I did something far quieter and far worse. I tilted the floor just slightly and let an innocent man slide off the edge. When the verdict came, I watched his face. He did not shout. He did not weep. He turned and looked for his little girl in the back of the room, and he gave her a small, broken smile. The kind a father gives when he is trying to tell his child that everything will be all right, even as his own world ends. And his daughter held up her drawing, the yellow sun, the little house, 3 stick figures holding hands. I looked away. God forgive me, I looked away from a child. I went home that night and I told my wife it had been a long day. I ate dinner. I slept. And I told myself it was over. It was not over. It was only beginning. Because here is the truth I learned, the truth I am giving to you now, the truth that cost a man his freedom and cost me my soul. You do not get to choose when the bill comes due. You commit the act in a single quiet moment, but you pay for it in 1,000 sleepless nights you cannot see coming. For 11 years I told myself I'd moved on. I rose higher. I got my higher court. They started drawing up plans for the building with my name on it. And then, 11 years later, I learned what really happened to Daniel. I learned who truly killed that man. I learned what those 11 years had done to a little girl with a drawing. And I learned the one detail that I have never been able to outrun, no matter how far or how fast I have tried. I was wrong. And later had finally come. 11 years later, another man confessed. He was dying, and the dying do not lie the way the living do. He told the truth about that night in the businessman's home, and it was not Daniel. It was never Daniel. I had known that. I had always known that. The confession told me nothing my own heart had not screamed at me for 11 years. But it took away the last lie I had been hiding behind. The small, cowardly hope that maybe, just maybe, I had been right by accident. I was not right. I was wrong. I was so completely wrong. So I went to find him. I went to make it right, the way I had always promised myself I would, someday, later, when the time was right. But later never came. Daniel had died in prison 4 years earlier, a fight that was not his fight. He was 39 years old. He had spent the last 7 years of his life paying for a thing he did not do, while the real killer walked free in the same city as me, breathing the same air, and I let it happen with cold coffee and a quiet ruling. His daughter was 19 by then, the little girl with the yellow sun and the three stick figures holding hands. I found her. I will not tell you yet what she said to me, because I do not think I can say it without breaking, and there is more you need to understand first. So let me tell you the truth I bought with another man's whole life. I spent 40 years believing that being a good man was a thing you became, a title you earned, a reputation you built and then owned forever, like a house. I thought that once the world called you honest, you simply were honest, the way a wall is a wall. That is a lie. That is the most dangerous lie there is. Goodness is not a thing you become. It is a thing you choose. Again and again and again. Every single day, in the quiet moments when no one is watching and no one will ever know, you are not a good person because of who you were yesterday. You are a good person, or you are not, because of what you choose in the next quiet moment. I was a judge. So let me give you the lesson in the only language I truly know. Every day, life puts you on trial. Not for the great crimes, for the small ones. The phone call you did not make, the truth you did not say, the right thing that would have cost you a little, so you chose the easy thing instead and called it wisdom. And you, like me, will tell yourself the same 3 words. You will say, I have time. I will fix it later. There will always be a later. But later is a thief. Later is the most expensive lie you will ever tell yourself. Later stole a father from a little girl. Later stole my soul from me, one quiet compromise at a time. Later is where good people go to bury the men they meant to be. I protected my name, and my name is now the only thing left of me, and I cannot stand to hear it. So hear me. The reputation you are protecting is not your soul. The image others hold of you is not the truth of you. There will come a day when the applause goes quiet, when the title means nothing, when you are alone with the only judge who has ever truly mattered, yourself. And that judge does not look away. Let me tell you what his daughter said to me. I stood in front of her, an old judge in an expensive coat, and I confessed everything. I told her I had known. I told her I had the power to save her father, and I chose my name instead. I waited for her to scream. I wanted her to scream. I think I had come there hoping she would punish me, because punishment would have been easier than what she did. She looked at me for a long time, and then she said very quietly, he always told me to forgive people. Even at the end, he said the people who hurt you are usually just afraid. And then she walked away. He spent his last years in a cage, and he was still a better man than I had been on my best day in a black robe. That is the weight I carry to my grave, not her anger, her father's grace. So now I am going to speak to you, directly, just you. I do not know what your quiet compromise is, but you do. Right now, hearing this, a face came into your mind, a truth you have been avoiding, a person you have been meaning to call, a wrong you keep promising you will make right, later. I am begging you, do not wait. You think you are protecting something by waiting, your comfort, your image, your peace. You are not protecting anything. You are building a debt, and the interest on a buried truth is paid in the only currency that matters, the years of your one short life and the person you could have been. I thought I had time. I had 40 years of mornings, and I wasted every one of them being right instead of being good. I was wrong. Later never came for Daniel. Later will not come for you. There is no later. There is only the next quiet moment, the one happening right now, where no one is watching and you get to choose who you actually are. Do not make my mistake. Do not spend your life protecting a statue of yourself while the real you quietly dies underneath it. Do not trade your soul for a name on a building, a number in a bank, a reflection in other people's eyes. None of it follows you to where I am going. I promise you that. I am almost there, and my hands are empty, and the only thing I can still feel is the weight of a drawing I looked away from. A yellow sun, a little house, three stick figures holding hands. If you take one thing from an old man who has nothing left to gain by lying to you, take this. Be good when it costs you something. That is the only time it has ever counted. Anyone can be honest when honesty is free. Your whole life is decided in the moments when it is expensive and you choose to pay anyway. I'm 83 years old. I was a judge for over 40 years, and in the end I was judged by the only court that cannot be bribed, cannot be impressed by my robe, and cannot be fooled by my name. My own conscience. I lost that case. Do not lose yours. So tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself one honest question, the one you have been running from. And then, for once in your life, do not wait until later to answer it, because later never comes. I would know.